appreciate you joining us here on Aspire to Retire with Ralph and Tim Short of Welcome Home Financial Partners. You can find out more about them, set up a time to speak with them, attend their First Friday events. Just go to welcomehomefp.com. That is the website. We made it real easy for you. It's right there in the podcast description. You can click the link. It'll take you right there. My name is Chris Swan, and I'm pleased to be joined by the father-son team behind Welcome Home Financial Partners, Ralph and Tim Short. Ralph, Tim, glad to be with you as always. How are you doing today?
Fine. Doing good, Chris. How are you?
Doing well. You know, a common theme that we talk about here on the show is the importance of guaranteed consistent income, you know, making sure those monthly expenditures are covered. Social Security, of course, is one of those factors. A pension, if people have the luxury of that. Annuities can offer that guaranteed income as well. For life, cover basic expenses in retirement. But who should you buy them from? That's, I think, a pretty great question. And here is annuity advocate Cheryl Moore with wincantel.com, and here are her thoughts on it.
If you're talking with somebody about annuities and they can't answer your questions about how it works, what it's good for, why you might want it, if they don't listen to what you're saying, those things are red flags for me.
So we've spoken about the education and the importance of educating the listeners and the clients, obviously. I know you guys as independents have access to a wide range of annuity products, the different strategies out there. How important is it to listen to the client's needs and desires before recommending a strategy for them?
Well, it's very important. And it's not just with an annuity strategy, it's with anything, right? So, you know, we sit down with folks and our first meeting is usually about an hour long, and we are doing way less talking than the person sitting on the other side of the table, because how are we to know what they want without them telling us? And if we're talking and we're saying this or we're saying that, then obviously we're not going to get the input that we need. We're not going to get the information, their goals or aspirations. But I think it's really important to point out that there's many different types of annuities. And it is a big red flag if you're speaking to an advisor or an agent or whatever, and they have no idea why they're recommending that to you, right?
Sure.
So they can be complex. And I think we kind of pride ourselves on being very simple, right? A lot of people kind of know what they want, but they don't know how to get there. And if you throw out every graph, every pie chart, every scenario possible, that kind of makes people nervous because they don't know which way to go, right? So with annuities, they can be as simple as you want them to be. But yeah, absolutely. We have to listen to that person to see what they're trying to accomplish. If they want to generate, 30%, 40% gain each year, well, that's probably not what we're going to talk about. So I think it's important if you want the guaranteed income, if you're worried about living too long. I'm currently working with a guy from a local grocery store chain, and he just turned 59 and a half. And he's like, you know what, it's time for me to retire. And I'm like, okay, tell me a little bit more. And he goes, well, I'm overweight. I've got a heart disease, and my dad died at 51. My brother died at 53.
Oh.
So I'm already beating the odds. He goes, so I know I'll be gone here in 10 years. And I'm like, well, how do you know that, right? I mean, if you take a look at your family history, you've already beat the odds. Who says you're not going to live to 80 or 85? Yeah. And he kind of chuckled and he goes, are you looking at me? And I was like, okay. So I think it's important because a lot of folks talk about risk and everybody's concerned about losing money. That's the only risk that they think's on the table. But there's a whole lot of other risks, right? And longevity risk is one of the things because they all say that we're supposed to be living longer.
Right.
So if we say, hey, in this gentleman's case, hey, I know that at the age of 70, I will no longer be here. Let me pull out, 10% of my account for the next 10 years. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, well, that's fine and dandy. That's an easy math problem. But if you live past 70, then what's going to happen?
Right.
So I think that's really important that an annuity is really good for longevity risk.
But I would also say most of the people that are looking at buying an annuities, they really don't know exactly what it is, because that's one of the things I always ask people is, you've probably heard a lot about annuities, but do you know what it is? And most of them really cannot explain that. And the way I explain annuity is it's just a series of payments that you design it to do what you want it to do for you. But the other thing is most people have annuities and they don't even know it because that's not what they're called. I mean, a series of payments after age 65 is going to be something called Social Security. That's an annuity because the government pays you that. So that is one of the explanations that I use. The other thing is a pension. A pension is basically an annuity, but it's paid by your employer. So that kind of helps people to understand a little bit about what an annuity is. But a lot of people that you talk to as financial advisors, they're not as well versed in annuities as they are in their stocks and bonds and mutual funds and things like that. So that's how they get paid. So they were trying to get you to invest in that instead of annuities. And at the very end, when you say, no, I want to buy this annuity, and he said, oh, well, okay, I can do that for you now. But understand, did he suggest that to you at the very beginning? But you have to understand what your goal is and how that works in planning for your retaining your goals.
So let me ask you this question real quick. Has anybody ever told you, I don't want Social Security and I don't want my pension?
Not lately. Now I've had a lot of people tell me lately that, what if I have to take this RMD, And I said, well, there's ways that we can do it. You can use that as a charitable contribution, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's the income that they may not necessarily need because they know they're going to have to be taxed on it and things like that. But when it comes to annuities, I bring this up because I had this conversation with my mother recently. Think of them kind of like shoes. And I need you guys to go with me on this, so just trust me. There are a lot of shoes out there. Obviously there are running shoes and there are dress shoes and there are sandals and flip-flops. And my mom was asking because, she stands a lot for, she's still working out of her desire to, and she's on her feet a lot. And so it's taking a toll. She's looking for better shoes. She asked me to recommend one to her. I said, well, I can't just tell you to go buy this pair of shoes because I don't know. I'm not a podiatrist by any means, I said, but obviously you don't want sandals. You don't want dress shoes. Like, I can narrow them down and go, this is what I think you probably want to take a look at. But I do seriously recommend you go to, a podiatrist or, a running store and have them, do all the measurements and really find the right ones for you. Same sort of thing when it comes to annuities. You don't want to just shoot blindly out there and go, I've heard good things about them. That sounds great to me. I'm going to pick this one, pull it out of a hat, things like that. You really want to figure out what it is that you're trying to achieve. If it is principal protection, if it is, perhaps a long-term care benefit, guaranteed income, and then whittling through. And you honestly want to go to an independent, because if I had sent my mom to the Nike store, she's going to end up with a pair of Nikes. Now
she's not getting Adidas.
Exactly. That might work well for her, but you don't know because it's all they have access to. It's the same sort of thing, the term is a captive agent. If they're working for insurance company X, Y, or Z, that's what they're going to recommend to you because that's all they have access to. Working with an independent like the team at Welcome Financial Partners is critical because you have access to, a wide variety of different insurance companies and strategies to figure out what's going to work best. And I think it's a great time to mention, sometimes you guys do the work, the due diligence there, and you find out an annuity may not be right for them at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always going to be based off that individual, right? I wasn't quite sure where we were going with the shoe talk, but yeah. I like what you did there. So I think it is important that, if you go to XYZ company, they're only going to give you an annuity from XYZ company. Right. Whereas for us, we work with so many different types of companies that we can pick and choose, whatever is the best fit. So you talked about different types of them. If you want principal protection, there's a million of them out there, but what's best for you? Mm-hmm. What indexes do they use? What type of floor do they have? There's a lot of different things to take into account. But yeah, there's some folks that, one, don't care if they lose money in the market, which I don't think, if you've got money in the market, you got to be patient with it. But I don't think anybody will raise their hand and say, hey, I'm fine losing money. Right. But there are some folks that don't care about principal protection, or they don't care because they've got, we've got a lot of people in the area here. They work for some of the biggest companies around Richmond or the federal government, and they're doing fine cash flow wise, mm-hmm. right? So between their pension and Social Security, they could be making more. I met with a couple the other day that they will be making more in retirement than their current salary.
Oh, wow.
And that's only from their pension and Social Security. So, maybe that's not the right route to go, but still in the same point, those folks were looking for protection. They did well. They both had $1 million plus in their TSP. So yeah, everybody's going to be a little bit different.
And I would say the difference between what we do is there's so many things that's out there that you need to look at when it comes to annuities. Do you want immediate income today? Mm-hmm. Then there's one way of doing it. And there's deferred income down the road when you don't have to make that choice until later. Then you got to take a look at it. If you want deferred annuities, then you've got either fixed annuities, you've got variable annuities, you've got fixed index annuities. So there's so many different things, different types, not necessarily just coming from all the different companies. So think about it this way. You got 3 choices of deferred annuities, but you've got 186 companies that have those types, plus they probably have 8 or 10 different products of the same fixed or variable or fixed index annuity. So there's so many choices out there. It's just mind-boggling.
Do you say 186 companies?
Yeah.
I'm going to fact check you on that one.
Okay. That's right. You just go ahead and do that.
But yeah, I mean, it's important because every one of them works a little bit different, right? So they can still kind of have the same concept, but there's going to be a lot of differences to them. And it's important because going back to XYZ company, they might have a good program, but there could be a better one out there.
Right.
But that person who works for XYZ company is not going to show you the better route.
No, definitely not. And again, that is the power of working with, independents like the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners, having access to a wide variety. As Tim mentioned earlier, that first meeting, complimentary, by the way, it is more of a get to know you sort of situation, doing more listening than speaking with you, trying to know the ins and the outs. What you are not going to get at the end of that first meeting is this is what you want. This is what you want to get put into. It does take a few to really get into the details. And if I may be so bold as to say, you kind of want to be wary of anyone who is presenting that strategy for you before you walk out of the door the first time, because you know what? Chances are they had that strategy put together before you walk through the door. And that, my friends, is a cookie cutter approach. That is not what you want in retirement. I don't think you want, the one that works well for everybody out there, that one size fits all strategy, because here's the truth. It doesn't fit anyone well at all. It doesn't fit anyone particularly well. And so you want to find that right strategy for you, whether it is utilizing an annuity or not, getting educated, getting informed, and being able to make that decision based on the information. That is what the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners does, whether it is utilizing an annuity, whether it is utilizing other strategies out there, whatever it is when it comes to your retirement plan, finding out what's going to work best for you, because I dare say that's probably the most important to you, what's going to work best for you. It all starts with going to the website, welcomehomefp.com. Set up a time to speak with them. If it's in the office, if it's attending their first Friday event, getting to know them better, or just reaching out and dropping a line. Again, welcomehomefp.com. It is right there in the podcast description. I want to thank you, as always, for joining us here on Aspire to Retire with Ralph and Tim Short. Gentlemen, appreciate the time as always. As we wrap up here, I'm going to leave you with the final word.
Thank you, Chris. And I think it's, you hit a really good point there of, if somebody is going to offer you or make you some recommendation just in an hour meeting, it took you 30 or 40 years to build this up. Do you think we're going to solve all the problems in 1 hour? So we talked a lot about the A word today. And I think it's important that, people open up their minds to different types of either investments or strategies. And that kind of starts just giving us a call and sitting down in the office, and we can start the process for you. So we appreciate you guys listening, and take care.
All content is for information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decision, nor is it intended to be a projection of current or future performance or indication or future results. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Welcome Home Financial Partners and Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC. The information contained in this material has been derived from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness, and does not purport to a complete analysis of the materials discussed. All information and ideas should be discussed in detail with your individual advisor prior to the implementation. Each individual investor's situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstance. Advisor services are offered by Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Virginia. Being registered as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Insurance products and services are offered through WPI Holding, Virginia Insurance License Number 138509, an affiliated company. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services to any resident of any state other than the state of Virginia or where otherwise legally permitted. Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, and Welcome Home Financial Partners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency.